Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. And if you're interested in learning the thought process behind how to proactively predict where your opponent's going to drop their abilities, this is the game for you. Let's go. At the bottom here, I am playing as a Sabertooth specialist, and my opponent, Vic, is playing as a Typhoon specialist. At the time of this game, my MMR was around 1850, and Vic's MMR is around 1770. All right off the bat here, I am going to go with aggro spiders. I personally believe that the only way to play the tarantula is in aggro position, even though I had some limited success of playing it as a defense, so defending against aggro, but I've never really had any success winning in a standard board. So aggro means that you have all of your units up here into the middle with the intention of capturing an early tower. Standard means when you have all of your units by the tower with the intention of beating your opponent with range. So Tarantula does not have great range. It's only 75 meters. It's actually the same range as the pack of lowly fangs, which means when you're playing standard, you're kind of playing it from behind, right? Your opponent can put down units like arc lights, marksmen, stonecrawlers, absolute kills, Tarantula, and that becomes a big problem. So aggro is okay because your tarantula only have to move a little bit in order to get to range with the tower. And also with the range upgrade, I think you really only just need to walk about 20 to 30 meters, which is not bad at all. And also because tarantulas are super tanky, I normally see it as a shock trooper, more so than a support unit like an arc light. All right, good tower on my side, and also good late arriving chaff. So I'm going to win this first round with just a few more crawlers. Round two, I got a unit drop here. Looking at the board, I do have a Sabertooth. However, that Sabertooth has no real great position. So I figure instead of getting another Tarantula, which I may not have the money for, why don't we get a Wraith? Wraith serves two purposes. First, it supports my Sabertooth with some chaff clear, so my Sabertooth can actually get to that Tarantula. Second, I don't have any anti-air, so Wraith is sort of a hedge against anti-air. However, if my opponent does pick the Wraith as well, my Wraith would not win the fight because he also has the marksman. So I have to supplement that with a single marksman here. So that's how I normally play this board. I look at where there are holes onto the board and I plug them. Or I look at where some of my units might be underperforming next round without support, and I give them support. So in this case, I notice there's a hole in terms of chaff clear on the far right. And also there's a hole in terms of anti-air, so the Wraith answers both. A Fire Badger, which was also one of the units in the pack, can also answer chaff clear, but it does not answer anti-air. So Wraith would have been a superior choice. And also Wraith works really well with the Sabertooth because it actually chaff clears all around instead of just pointing at a single thing and shoot. So I think this is going to be a pretty potent combination. My opponent playing standard, and it's kind of echoing what I said earlier. He's actually selling out of the tarantula and replacing them with arc light. So he took the arc light drop, and he's also replacing one of the tarantula with more arc lights. Arc lights do have about 20, well, about 18 meters of additional range over the tarantula, and that's pretty big, right? And arc lights clear chaff just as well as a tarantula. All right, going to get a very timely tower, which means my units are now moving over and mop up on the other side. So pretty good round for me. Round three, got a few interesting items. I think laser sight is very interesting. Mass-produced boats was also very interesting because at some point when you're playing Tarantula, you can go with just a boat rush with a mobile beacon. Now, mass-produced boats aren't as tanky, but all the abilities on the mass-produced boats do not get penalized, which means the chain gun, which normally does 11,000 damage per shot, will always do 11,000 damage, regardless if it's mass-produced. I took the laser sight. Actually, both of us took the laser sight. I figured range would be pretty important here. And the laser sight for now is going to go on to the saber-tooth. It is now round 3, which means my opponent, being a typhoon specialist, gets to summon typhoons, and 2 of them are now going on to the shallow flank. The big problem with that is that my late arriving chaff are now running towards the typhoons, which means the marksman will get an early lock on onto my bigger units. So this is quite a bad news for me because my saber-tooth didn't actually get to do what it's supposed to do. It's been shooting at crawlers all the time, and by the time the crawler has finally cleared, the saber-tooth is almost dead. So not great. We're gonna have to fix that right away. Typhoon on the shallow flank could be very potent if you don't know how to fix it, because a lot of times when players play this kind of game, the first instinct is to bring in like a saber-tooth right here, right? But the tricky part is that if you put a saber-tooth here, he'll just chop up, and then you'll end up in kind of a awkward situation. So I am not going to answer that with saber-tooth, and just so it happens, I get efficient tech research on this round. That was instant pick by me. So the idea is we're going to put Tarantula directly in front of the Typhoon, and you want to make sure that your Tarantula are close enough to the Typhoon with nothing in front so that the Typhoon locks onto the Tarantula right away. And the reason for that is when Typhoon locks onto the Tarantula, the spider mines will have nothing between the Tarantula and Typhoon, and it will just run towards the Typhoon. A single spider mine at level 1 does 4,500 damage, so 2 spider mines realistically bring both of these Typhoons down to about 1,000 HP, allowing my Tarantulas just to mop up the Typhoons very easy. So this one is a more efficient approach. Yes, you can put 1 Saber-tooth, 1 Tarantula, which will kind of cost you the same, and yes, you do end up with an extra unit. However, since I'm already going into pretty heavy into spiders, might as well just get the spider mines. In the future, I might even sell out of the Saber-tooth if I am going to get boats. So I'm pretty happy with this decision here. On my opponent's side, it's just going to be a big round of chaff, lots of trawlers, lots of arc lights. And look at this. We're going to have Spider-Man coming in, right? My opponent did choose redeployment, so the Typhoon gets redeployment all the way to the bottom. And it's still serving the purpose of delaying my chaff and now getting to my tower. So very well played by my opponent. And remember, if you already have units deployed at the flank, and if they have already teleported in, when you redeploy that unit on the same flank, you do not need to be teleported in once again. However, there is a bug in this game. So let's say I have the Typhoon all the way on this side and I click redeployment. And during the redeployment phase, I accidentally put the Typhoon back into the main board and then I put it back into the flank. If you do that, you have to re-teleport once again. But if you're just moving within the flank without touching the main board, that's nothing you have to worry about. All right, both of us are going to pick Underground Threat. Now, for me, I don't have as great of a defense, but seeing how he was shifting his Typhoons up and down, I've decided, you know what? I am going to add 2 more Tarantulas at the bottom. Tarantula's second layer of Tarantula is actually very decent in this kind of board. Not only that, you can produce more rounds of spider mines, and also because Tarantulas tend to die in the front row because that's their purpose as a shock trooper, you kind of end up with a bit of an awkwardness without chaff clear, where your Saber-tooth is just shooting at crawlers. So the second layer of Tarantula actually makes sense. Now, because we both got underground, we have to predict where the underground goes. It's either going to go on the side or the center. I have Tarantulas on the side to defend. I have nothing in the center, so I'm going to put down a safety missile just in case. I also took Loose this turn. Loose is a great technology against an opponent that is primarily using Arclight as chaff clear. Loose significantly reduces the chaff clearing efficiency of the Arclight, because now instead of getting 4 or 5 crawlers per shot, it's only getting about 2 to 3. But it seems like there's going to be enough Arclight. He actually has, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Arclights. So that's a lot of freaking Arclights. So excellent round to my opponent, and it's taking a huge chunk of my HP here. Round 6, I have to be very careful with what I do here. Overlord was shown, and since I was already thinking about an Overlord push with my Tarantula, that gets picked instantly. You might wonder, why don't I take the Fortress? Well, the Fortress walks very slowly, which means in a board where most of my units are walking slightly faster, so Tarantula is walking at 8 meters per second, that is slightly faster than your chaff of 6 meters per second. Fortress are only walking 6 meters per second, so I need something that can kind of hit together, where if I have the Fortress, it would just be lagging behind. And also, when it comes to raw damage output, an Overlord with chain gun actually outfires the Fortress. The chain gun alone can output just as much damage as the Fortress of the equal level. And of course, you have the Overlord's original weapon, which also does a little bit more damage than the Fortress. So a single Overlord can almost do the job of 2 Fortress if all you care about is firepower. Now, of course, the Overlords are extremely weak, right? At level 2, you only get 32,000 HP, whereas the Fortress gets almost 100,000, so 90,000. So you have to keep it protected. And also, you have to make sure your chaff clear is top-notch. I'm pretty confident with my chaff clear. I'm pretty confident with my chaff, especially with the help of spider mines. So it's going to be a boat running straight into the tower. One final thing about chain gun is that it's especially useful into a board that is primarily the single model units, like the Arclights or the Marksman or even the Tarantula, right? It's not particularly great into mass sledgehammers. It's not great really into steel balls, because then you have to take multiple shots to get one squad. Whereas in here, one shot from the chain gun is going to pop, maybe not the level 3 Arclight, but it's going to bring it very close. All right, lots of missiles at the front row. My opponent is smelling blood in the water, so he wants to end this game very quickly. I got really lucky here with the Overlord still getting the tower and still surviving. And I think I might get this sniper as well. Yeah. So now I got a bunch of spider mines running towards my opponent's tower. I may not get the tower because I simply do not have enough units, but he does not have enough units to kill me in one round, which means I get to stabilize and I get to play more Overlords. Let's see how it goes. Oof, 72 just barely missed death. Mobilized Battleship is a very potent card, especially in the later rounds. I expect my opponent to take this one because that's really the only way he can kill me at this point, aside from just rinse and repeat what he did. I'm going to put the Mobilized Battleship defensively. Originally, I thought, maybe I should just put it at the offense here, but I want to have it defensively. I bought 2 more Battleship here to push the other tower. And my biggest worry is that my opponent put in the Mobilized Battleship at the flank. So at the middle, this is fine. I already have crawlers, which means the moment that his battleship lands, he's going to start shooting at the crawlers instead of shooting at my boat. But at the flank is where I worry, because it's just going to target my Tarantula. And then if I have my battleship in the middle, you'll have to kind of run towards my opponent's battleship. So it's a little scary. There is a breakpoint with Battleship versus Battleship, is that if you take +1 attack, you can one-shot your opponent's battleship. Alright, my opponent is just going to add even more Typhoons. Typhoons deal a little bit better into chaffed loose crawlers. And he probably realized right now with the Arclights being elite and also high levels, they're wasting a lot of shots. The battleship got instantly deleted by my battleship at the bottom here, so no threat was realized. And now I have a whole bunch of boats just aiming at my opponent, every single one with a chain gun, by the way. And now they're just starting to pick off my opponent's units one by one. And here's the real power of having these boats. They are just so good when it comes to raw damage output. Getting tower once again. And we still have boats left over. We still have spider mines left over. And it's going to be a huge round here for me. Alright, getting into round 8. Another unit drops here. I smashed that wasp button instantly. And my opponent I was expecting my opponent to fully go wasps. Why? Because I have no anti-air at all except his overlords. So the one way that my opponent can kill me is to mass air. And also, because my opponent runs a line of marksmen, they can have the option to take AA, which is exactly what he did. So the wasp serves a dual purpose of one, clearing the anti-air wasp potentially coming from my opponent. So I actually double tech the wasp with anti-air and range in case something like that happens. I just want to be super sure. And then two, it helps with defending against these AA marksmen. Even with range, the wasp only shoots at 90 meters, which means they will move ahead of the overlord at 110 meters, and they will provide a screen in front of the overlords, drawing fire from these AA marksmen. Now, of course, my opponent didn't take the wasp, but instead going with the rhino, which means I have wasted some money on AA, but I thought it was justified because if I didn't take my AA and my opponent did with range, then I essentially lose the game. So it was a risk. It was an investment that I was willing to risk, and even though it didn't pay off in a big way, but my wasp is still now providing a screen for my overlord. So as you can see right now, all the shots coming in from the marksman on the right are landing on this wasp, allowing my boats to get towered. And with the tower down, the other boat on the side is starting to work. So now the game is starting to flip. All right, we're getting to round 9, and we got some fantastic abilities. I think Lightning Storm is a must pick for both sides. Lightning Storm is especially deadly for air units because there's no way to shield it, right? So whenever you see something like this, especially in the final round, you have to assume that that is the tech that is going to be taken. And you also have to assume like whatever cheese that your opponent might want to try will be tried in this round. First thing first, where is my opponent's Lightning Storm going to go? It's probably going to go on the strong side with triple boats and triple wasp. That's going to get him the most value. So first thing first, we're going to take that level, the third tech from wasp, which is jump drive. We're going to evacuate them all the way to the other side. Secondly, where do we want to put our Lightning Storm? Well, I think it's going to be on the same side our opponent is running into. Because on the other side, I'm going to have wasp running into the tower, so I don't want to shock my own wasp. And then what I was thinking is that, oh, my opponent could actually get replicating crawlers or some sort of crawler upgrade and ruin my day on the ground. So my chaff clear right now is okay, consists of a few tarantulas, but it's not going to be great. And there is a underground threat, which means what you can do is to put crawlers maybe in the middle, get replicate, maybe even drill, double tech your crawlers, and then you're just going to make a whole crap ton of crawlers running into tower. To not have that. So I level up this level 2 crawler and I gave them drill for the sole purpose of defeating replicating crawlers. And here it is. We got Lightning Storm on the side where there's not going to be any wasps. And we got wasp on the other side supporting my boats. Lightning Storm is now coming down on my opponent's board and just zap, zap, zap. Oh, I didn't get this marksman, which is a shame. But that's okay. My left-hand side is pushing through. My opponent was not expecting a jump drive wasp to the other side. Gonna get tower. And with the tower down, I should be able to swing over to the other side and hopefully win the game. I only need to have one of my Overlord alive, maybe one more Tarantula, and I win the game. Ooh, these marksmen are so good, but with the tower down, that's enough damage to win this round. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something about how to predict the abilities and also just how to predict what your opponents are going to do, right? It's just simple deduction. What can your opponent do that will cause the most impact to your board? And you just work your way backward. And you want to plug holes with units that can serve multiple roles. So in the second round, instead of getting Fire Badger to pluck my chaff clear problem, I chose the Wraith because I also have the anti-air problem. The less unit variety that you have, the more efficient your units are going to be, as long as your units that's on the board can cover all of your problems. If your unit are being pigeonholed into one thing and you're not really answering a specific problem, then yes, you need to pivot. You need to get more different units. But if they're covering everything, then the less variety you have, the better. All right, thank you very much for watching. And if you want to see another analysis just like this, here's another video for you. And I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.